everybody. Thank you for joining us today on this health and social care, health and childcare update. We appreciate you joining us at this very strange time that we find ourselves in. My name's Dion Broughton and I'm joined today on the webinar by my colleague Raman Gorani. Myself and Raman manage the healthcare, childcare and health and social care portfolio between us. So the aim of the webinar today is that we just want to go back to, we did webinars in February and just talked about the SASE transition to the standards, which should be happening in 3 months' time. We also want to talk about endpoint assessment and special discretions that are happening at the moment. And we also want to look at digital content and questions and answers. But also, as well as questions and answers, what we thought might be nice is actually if we could share information of how you're all coping at this time, what you're doing to try and sort of maintain that learning for your learners on apprenticeship programs, etc., etc. So anything that you want to share would be good, and we can chat about that at the end and share good practice, etc., etc. So I'm sure you can appreciate that, like most of you, Raman and I are both working from home. We're in our own homes. So please bear with us if you hear any background noise. I'm sure most of you have neighbours who are furloughed who are taking this time to do a lot of DIY. I know I've been experiencing a lot of that. We're also going to be recording the webinar so that we can share that with people who have not been able to attend. Okay, so we'll move on. As I say, what we're going to do is to look at SASE to standards and have a look what's happening around there. So first of all, we'll have a look at the adult care. Now, I know you all know that the level 5 framework is due to close the 31st of July. Now, probably you, like me, have heard a lot of rumours, a lot of people discussing, will they actually close the SASE frameworks come July? And we haven't heard anything yet, but I think what we have to do is to work on the basis that, yes, we will have to assume that the SASE frameworks will close in July. There's no reason for them to not, because there is the standard is available. So I think if you've not already made that transition, start thinking about that work on the basis that there may not be an extension to the SASE framework just because of coronavirus, etc., etc. So the care leadership and management framework, again, there is the replacement standard. There is a mandatory qualification within that standard. Now, I do want to point out that the qualification that is available in the standard is a different qualification that we have in the SASE framework. Now, this standard was approved 3rd of February. Duration is 18 months, funding is £7,000 per learner. We have applied to the endpoint assessment register to deliver this endpoint assessment, and we should have support materials available for you July, August 2020. So do continue to speak to your business development managers for that. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was the lead practitioner in adult care. So there is no SASE framework for that standard. There's no transition because it never was an apprenticeship framework. Now, I'm sure most of you have seen that that was approved for delivery on the 31st of March. Again, typical duration of 18 months and the £7,000 funding. So we will be applying to the register to offer that endpoint assessment. So we will update as soon as we know more about the application, etc., and if that's been accepted. Okay, so what I'll now do, I'll now hand you over to Raman, who will talk about the landscape for healthcare and childcare. So Raman, I'll just mute myself and hand you over.
Okay, thank you, Dion, and hello, everyone. As Dion said, my name is Raman Gunani. I manage the healthcare and childcare portfolio. So moving on to the next slide, you can look at that all these frameworks, clinical healthcare, allied health, maternity, pediatric, perioperative, were available, and the replacement standard for level 3, which was senior healthcare support worker, has been available for a very long time. Just to draw your attention, I'm sure you all are already aware that this standard slightly changed in September 2018. So there was a version 1, people those who started before September 2018, and people those who started after September 2018. The assessment plan had changes. So we are offering both versions, version 1 and version 2. So when you look on our website, there is clearly indicated that people those who started before September 18 and people those who started after September 18. So make sure your learners are doing the right assessment plan, and there is support materials available. Both are ready. So talk to your business development managers again if you have any questions about it at all. So this was the level 3, and also on the top is the level 2 healthcare support worker, which we also offer. The healthcare support worker level 2, there isn't a mandatory qualification for that. However, the level 2 adult care, because the mandatory knowledge is exactly the same, can be used to support the learners to achieve this. And also when we talk about digital content, we'll also tell you how you can use that as well for 20% off the job. So moving on to the next slide of the healthcare, which has got all the other pathway, all the other qualifications and frameworks. So pharmacy services, intermediate and advanced in healthcare, both had there were framework, and both have got replacement standards. So pharmacy service assistant level 2 and pharmacy technician level 3. Pharmacy service assistant level 2 is got no mandated qualification. However, we are developing an optional qualification, which will be available very soon. And pharmacy technician is one of the unique ones because it is an integrated endpoint assessment within the qualification, which I'm sure you've already seen, but just to explain if you haven't, is that this integrated means that the endpoint assessment forms part of the qualification, and they have to achieve the on-program bit and the integrated endpoint assessment for them to achieve the whole qualification. Without endpoint assessment, they cannot achieve the qualification and register with GPHC. So that's the route that's available. But the level 3 diploma, the qualification, is also available as a standalone qualification without the integrated EPA as well. So learners, those who don't want to access the apprenticeship funding, can access that standalone qualification as well. Healthcare support services framework, which was available before, there isn't such a replacement standard for healthcare support, but there is a healthcare cleaning operative one, which is just approved. At this moment in time, we are not offering this, but we're looking into it. Optical retail and optical retail advanced, there is only an optical assistant at level 2 available, which is, again, the standard has just been approved. And just to make you aware that it's, again, we're looking into this one, not directly applied for it yet. Healthcare pathology, which was there, has actually changed, and this has been available for a very long time, which is that was at level 3, but the standards that are available in replacement are healthcare science assistant at level 2 and healthcare science associate at level 4. They both have mandatory qualifications. We offer both mandatory qualifications, but we don't offer the endpoint assessment for this standard. So those are the healthcare ones that we have been talking about. So moving on to the next one is the childcare ones that we offer. So children and young people workforce at level 2 and level 3, again, both have got replacement standards. The earliest practitioner level 2 was approved very recently, and we will be applying for it to go on the register for it and developing the materials to be available very soon. The level 3 early years educator, we are already on the register for it, and we have got all the materials ready for it. It has got a mandatory qualification as well. So for both those standards, the mandatory qualifications are already available. So the only thing in the children and young people workforce was a social care pathway as well, which unfortunately there isn't any replacement standard for it, because the only standard that they have produced is the early years educator or the residential childcare one. So residential childcare pathway has got children and young people families practitioner at level 4, which has got 2 options. So the mandatory qualification for residential childcare is available, but the option 2, the qualification in the assessment plan, is only the higher education qualification, which we can't offer, and none of the higher education institutes at the moment are offering, I understand. Unless you know anything more, please let me know. The last one is a play worker, which is still in development, and we will be looking into it when it's approved. Children and young people families manager, there wasn't any level 5 standard framework before, but this is a level 5 standard, and it has again got 2 options, which is residential childcare at level 5 or leadership for health and social care level 5 families manager again. So both of those have got mandated qualifications, and we offer both of those, and we also offer we don't offer at the moment the endpoint assessment for this, because the assessment plan we have challenged and questioned with Ofqual because it is actually unachievable. So we are in conversations with the Ofqual and the EQA body to make sure that this standard is achievable, because the test in that is actually, how can I say it, is not appropriate for at that level. So watch this space, and as soon as we have any updates, we shall let you know. Right, moving on, that's all the SASE transitions. So in terms of, yeah, Dion, it's yours now.
Yeah, thank you, Raman. So what we wanted to talk to you about is our endpoint assessment manager was going to join us, but unfortunately he's not been able to. But what we wanted to talk to you about was discretions that are being applied to endpoint assessment. Now, I'm sure, again, you've probably heard quite a lot of things around this. So our endpoint assessment manager has been working with EQA bodies just to really make sure that we're very clear on what can and cannot be applied to endpoint assessment. So I'm just going to take you through adult care. So the current standard states that before moving on to endpoint assessment, there has to be evidence of achievement of the diploma, the literacy and numeracy, and the 15 standards that are set out in the care certificate. So what the EQA body have agreed is that acceptable, suitable evidence of achievement can be offered as proxy for the certification, and allow the apprentice to proceed should they wish, but on the understanding that the certification for the apprenticeship cannot and will not be claimed by Pearson until the actual evidence, e.g. the diploma or the care certificate, is produced. So basically what they're saying is, if it's the certification evidence that's holding up, you can proceed if the learner wishes to, but the actual completion certificate won't be released until the evidence has been provided. So that's been agreed with the EQA body. The other interesting thing is that there was the service user testimony, and the standard again states that in the last 3 months following the completion, the learner should collate testimonies from people who use the service. So that's been suspended for the duration of the guidance discretion period that we find ourselves in. So they'll issue new guidance on the service user testimony afterwards, but that's been suspended for this moment in time. And when we get more evidence of that, we will update accordingly. Also, the current assessment plan states that the learner has to take the multiple choice test before, so the situational judgment test has to be taken and achieved before the professional discussion can be taken. That's now actually been amended, that the learner, again, during the discretion period, the learner can take the the components in any order they so wish, or how that suits, etc. The other thing is the situational judgment test. Again, according to the plan, has to be placed under exam conditions run by the independent assessment organisation. Now, I know what currently happens is that we opted for an on-screen test only, and usually you, as the training provider, will invigilate that test based on the test invigilation rules set by Pearson. And usually you have that on your Pearson online platform. You download the test, the learner sits the test, it's uploaded, etc., etc. So we appreciate that at this moment in time, you're not able to get in to see the learners, to actually be able to provide the invigilation, etc., for that test. We've been having conversations, and we've now created a paper-based test of that situational judgment test that will allow employers to invigilate within the workplace. Now, how that will work is that will be it will be conversations with the employer. It will be subject to our invigilation rules, and that paper-based test will be via secure file transfer between Pearson and the employer. Now, I don't know how many employers will take up that offer, but we've certainly had quite a few questions around that, which is why we've created the paper-based test. So the professional discussion may take place in the workplace, the standard says. The professional discussion, for a while now, we've been able to administer that remotely, following appropriate security and quality assurance practices. So the professional discussion shouldn't particularly be so much of an issue, because we have been doing that remotely for some time now. But again, these discretions have been agreed. Okay, so I'll just hand you back to Raman now, just to talk through the healthcare discretions that have been applied.
Thank you, Dion. So in the same way for healthcare as well, as you can appreciate that all the learners have been on the front line working hard. So however, there are learners who are due to complete. So if the questions are, as it says, do the gateway has to be delayed as a result? No. So, the apprentices whose gateway has been delayed, I mean, again, it's up to the learner and it's up to the employer. So yes, the learner can delay it if they want to, but the discretions have been put in place if they wish to choose the discretion. So if the learner wants a break in learning, an extension required, so this can be recorded on the ILR and the normal processes follow for that. However, if the apprentice has had an EPA approved, can the assessment take place? Yes, of course. The tested component, as Dion said before, can be invigilated by the employer. The interview can also be undertaken using remote methods. Planning and scheduling will take place as normal. Now, we can't undertake an observation. However, there's a discretion for observation now, which I'll talk about in a minute. So we don't have to pause for observation. But if the alternative methods that have been provided in the discretion, if the learner does not want to take that, then the observation has to be paused. So then it can be rescheduled when the guidance changes. So the next question that we've been asked a lot is about the certificate, because of the gateway, is that the apprentice has completed the online on program, but we don't have the certificate to prove any achievement. So again, if you've got screenshot of the results from where they have done, claiming that the screen to confirm that the qualification has been awarded, for example, our EdXL Online or any other, if you've done it from, then yes, we will accept that screenshot to say that the learner has achieved that qualification. Moving on to the next slide is the discretion for the observation, which is the flexibilities. So all the healthcare standards, which is healthcare support worker, senior healthcare support worker, and the healthcare assistant practitioner. The current guidance is that the observation can be replaced, or may be replaced if the learner and employer wants that, with a reflective statement written by the apprentice up to 2,000, a maximum of 2,000 words, which has to be validated by an expert witness. And this will be followed by a question and answer session of up to 30 minutes with an independent assessor, so which can be done remotely. So the reflective statement has to be written and submitted 5 days before the actual endpoint assessment or before that Q&A session has been booked. So all the materials and all the guidance and all the support will be available by the end of the week. So if you talk to your business development managers, and if you want to, or the EPA delivery team, plan your learners who are about to complete or who haven't done this, they can achieve if the observation is not possible by doing these two methods for all the healthcare standards. So moving on, I think there's a little bit only, unfortunately, for childcare. We have no guidance at the moment that how we need to do. So EQ provider, IF8 and Ofcall, and they're all working on it because of childcare has got lots of license to practice issues as well. So I think they're working on it, how we can make sure that all the EVA-IFS and all the criteria for DFE are met doing different methods. So as soon as we have any update, we will post it and we'll let you know. Right, so any updates for our COVID-19 assessment arrangements, we have just put a link here. So all the updates are done daily or as they come. So please make sure you make yourself aware of this page. And it's got work-based learning, BTEC qualifications, functional skills, and all the other qualifications as well, and apprenticeship support as well. So please make sure you go on this page and keep looking. There are a good section on FAQs as well that you make yourself familiar with, and have a look. As I said, it gets updated every day. As soon as we get any update, we make sure that that page is updated. So just wanted to draw your attention to that. Okay, so this is just, we have put in, I'm sure you've been using a lot of support yourself, but there are resources that are available. We did send out some communications, but just wanted to make you aware of those again. ActiveLearn is our publishing support offer that we have, the digital support as well. So although there are some specific books for the apprenticeships for adult care, but not necessarily for healthcare, and there are some childcare, but there are BTEC qualifications in health and social care, childcare as well. And there are lots of books in the ActiveLearn bundles. I have put the link there. So this is currently all the teachers' books and the student books are available free. And there are digital books. You can have a look at those. And again, there are some activities that learners can do. They can also register on it. Teachers can register on this ActiveLearn bundles as well to get the books, download the activities in there as well. For childcare, we have partnered with Early Education. So normally Early Education has got a membership fee, but they have provided free membership to learners till the end of this month, and also free membership for all the teachers, colleges and centers for the rest of the calendar year. So you can look at that link as well and go on there, register. And if you click on that link, there is a code on our website that you need to put in to access free, because this is only available to Pearson centers. So make sure you access those, and there are lots of free materials for childcare on the Early Education website, and make yourself aware of those. And again, if you think they're useful, do let us know. Then going on from here, we can probably extend that with Early Education, as we have now partnered with them. And I think it would be really useful to get some feedback how you have used these free resources that they're offering, and free journal articles and all the other things. Right, moving on to the next one. These are just some of the other links that our SVs and SSVs have put together. There are other resources on some of these websites as well that you might find useful. So we've just put the links to it. If you were not aware of those, have a look at them, and then you might be able to give us some feedback if any of these were really useful, or share with the group, share with your colleagues. I definitely know Skills for Care have got a lot of resources for adult care, and again, PACE has got lots of stuff for the childcare as well. So, and there are some life skills from Barclay as well. So again, have a look at those, and please just feel free to use anything that you find useful in there. Okay. Thank you, Dion.
Thank you, Raman. Okay, so what I wanted to talk to you about today is about digital content that we've been working on, particularly for adult care. But as we've gone on the journey of this, we've started finding how it fits in with other sectors as well. So just to make you aware, Pearson have launched a learning hub. So it's a digital learning platform that's interactive, you know, has bite-sized learning, etc., etc. So really, it will support apprenticeships, but it also supports anybody for CPD or any kind of learning people want to do without actually a formal qualification. So that's the learning hub. So it's definitely worth going onto the website to have a look at that. I'll talk about that and give you the links just a little bit further on. But just to talk to you about what we've been doing with adult care. Now, I appreciate the visibility of this is not really great, but within the with the slides, I've put a PDF copy of this. So just to really talk you through, this is kind of what we're just referring to as a tube map. And this is the learning that we've created for adult care. Now, what we've done, we've aligned this to the apprenticeship standards so that you must know and understand within the apprenticeship standards. So we've broken this down into units that match with the content of the standards, job roles and responsibilities, values, behaviours, safeguarding, etc. So within each of those subject areas, we've created subsectors of the knowledge requirements that people need to have. So just choosing a smaller one to begin with, Unit B, which is about values and behaviours. So we've broken that down into learning areas of ensuring dignity is at the centre of your work. We're looking at person-centred care and how to demonstrate that, equality and diversity, and you know, and demonstrating courage. Within that, we've constantly linked this back to the 6 C's to really sort of drill down the learning. Now, what you find within each subject area, I'll just go on to the next one. So we've got all the subject areas. So what you'll find within each unit, there are lots of pockets of learning that relate to the standard. There is a video that that learners will see to begin with. The video, you know, has the learning content in there. From the video, they will go into a short quiz, which is just a recall of the knowledge that they will have had within the video. And then there's lots of other interactive, there's PDFs with information, there's an interactive worksheets, there's also some assignments. So the learner has an assignment, for instance, it's all knowledge based. One of the questions particularly could be define duty of care. So the learner could free type into the box their definition of duty of care and what it means. They then could submit that to you as a tutor, and you're able to mark that, you're able to give feedback, you're able to say, okay, you know, you could ask questions around, if you feel that there's something missing, you could say, could you, you know, could you sort of discuss further, you know, this and this. So it's that knowledge based that's going to support learners 20% off the job, so they can be using it, and particularly at this time when, you know, you don't have so much interaction with them, that you're not able to get in and have those observations and those question and answer sessions with them to demonstrate their competence. It's certainly worth having a look at this. Okay, so what I've done on here, I've put the information about the Learning Hub, about the digital platform. Now, there is a link on there. If you click on, you can play that. You have to put this into present mode to actually play the videos. You can't just play the videos within the normal slides. So that's definitely worth having a look at and seeing if there's anything on there that you feel would help you in the delivery of the apprenticeships. Again, there's a demonstration video of the Learning Hub and the learning that is on there for you to have a look at. So please do have a look at that and see if it's something that is of interest. Now, I was going to play, there is a video here of one of the units demonstrating person-centred care in the values and behaviours unit. Had a little click on it earlier on just to check that it was working, and my internet was just making it buffer really badly. So I don't want to play it now, but certainly, you know, after this, you've got the slides. Do have a look at that, and it's just a snapshot of that learning. If you do feel it's something that you want to discuss further, my email address is within the body of this email, but also you can have a chat to your business development managers, and they could give you more access to have a look at what the quizzes look like, what the assignments, etc. look like. So I mean, the video is probably 2 to 3 minutes long, so do have a look at that. What we've also found that whilst we have created the content for the adult care level 2 and 3 standards, what I started looking at whilst reviewing the level 2 preparing to work in adult social care, which I know you all know is the technical certificate that used to be the mandatory requirement of the SASE framework, the level 2 apprenticeship. What I found is huge similarities within the learning outcomes and the units within there. So what I've done as an exercise is to have a look at the preparing to work in adult social care and see what content we have in the adult care digital learning that could be used to support that qualification. So it's not 100% mapped, but it's a good 85% mapped. So again, if that's something that's of interest, what we're doing at the moment is creating a new platform for the preparing to work in adult social care and migrating the learning from the adult care into that. I know I've had a lot of centres ask me what are we intending to do with this preparing to work in adult social care, because it's a good pre-employment course and it's a good knowledge qualification. So we are going to keep it and we are going to extend it. We've had it reviewed, etc. So that will be available post December 2020 when its review date was. And as I say, it's now got a lot of digital learning attached to that you could support your learner with to reduce your contact time with the learner. So, you know, if this situation continues for many more months, at least learners are able to learn with minimal contact with assessors, etc. So that's just one that we've mapped that to. I'll just hand you back to Raman because Raman's also done a little bit of mapping as well.
Thank you, Dion. So if we can move on to the next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. So again, the same way as Dion said, as I said before, the level 2 healthcare support worker has got the similar mandatory content because the standard has got duty of care, health and safety, health and well-being, communication, person-centered care, all of the similar modules in that standard as well. So I've just mapped communication outcomes from the level 2 healthcare standard. So all the content that's in that digital learning maps to exactly that. There are some gaps. It's not 100% because there are areas in the health and well-being and areas in like dementia and physiological measurements and basic life support. So obviously those are not in this content, but there are some areas of, for example, the dementia, cognitive and mental health issues in there. So the mapping is again about 75 to 80% maps content to the healthcare support worker standard. So it can be used for the 20% off the job for healthcare support worker standard as well. And we're doing the same. We are creating a bundle for the healthcare support worker as well. There will be some gaps, as I said, but there will be a lot of it, 75 to 80% that can be used. So again, have a look at it. If it's of interest to you, do get in touch with your business development managers and do get in touch with us as well. And also, we are looking at developing other stuff as well on the digital content as well to support you and your learners. Okay.
Thank you, Raman. Okay, so that's really what we wanted to update you all on. So what it would be really good now, if anybody's got any questions or anybody just wants to share anything in general with us, that would be really, really great. Okay, so we have got a question in there, and what is acceptable evidence for functional skills? I will have to ask that question of the EPA manager, because ordinarily it would be the certificate. So I'll certainly take that back. What we will do for all the people that have been on this webinar, we will collate the FAQ, and we will make sure that it comes to you. So certainly, yeah, we will keep that. So it's a good question, and thank you for asking that. Okay, how do I access Learning Hub? So within the body of the slides, if you click on the video of what the Learning Hub does, there's also a box in there where you could request access for a free trial, or certainly have the conversations with your business development managers. They will be able to support on that. Okay. Oh, Raman, one for you. Can you see the question?
I can't see the questions. No, okay. I can't see the questions. That's what I was. If you read it out, I'll answer it, if you don't mind.
Okay, so the question is, for the level 2 early years practitioner, you had TBC next to the qualification. Can you confirm if the BTEC level 2 early years practitioner will be an acceptable qualification to be delivered?
Yes, the new level 2 BTEC early years practitioner qualification, not the technical, the work-based learning specialist qualification, which started in September 19, is acceptable.
Thank you. So the question is, if a student's role has temporarily changed due to the corona outbreak, can they continue as long as they are getting 20% off the job? Is there anything we must do in these circumstances?
I think as far as they're still able to achieve the apprenticeship standard, all the knowledge, skills and behaviors, because if they're not, then technically it's a break in learning, because in the new role, if they're not able to achieve that, then they would struggle with their endpoint assessment or achieving those.
Yeah, I agree. As long as they can continue to provide the evidence that's required to cover all the outcomes. So a question is, we have a few learners that are nearly finished their diploma and are awaiting functional skills. How can we take them onto EPA? So I'm assuming that we've got learners who are awaiting the functional skills test. Is that right? Or they've actually done the test? And again, that might go back to the question before of how do we evidence the functional skills. So I'll certainly speak to the endpoint assessment manager. Oh, so I think the question was they're waiting to do the test. So I'm assuming then that the test, again, it's on the Pearson online platform that's not able to administer. So again, in those circumstances, it's just the test that's holding up the learner. So if they can't take the test, they can't progress through. Okay, so I'll get further clarification on this. What evidence needs to be produced, and what if they can't sit the test? I'm assuming, again, the question might be, could they retrospectively provide that information? But I'll certainly get clarification. I don't want to give out incorrect information. So we'll do that, and we'll make sure that everybody that's registered for this webinar gets the answers to these questions. Okay, I can't see any more questions. Has anybody got any good practice to share? Has anybody still delivering training but doing it in a different way, experiencing, I mean, particularly with sort of care, not being able to get in to do observations is a huge thing. Has anybody doing anything innovatively that they want to share with anybody else. So based on the new qualification for childcare and EPA, will the standards be different to those in place? Will learners still create a portfolio of evidence and then select relevant items to, oh sorry, this keeps jumping about. Select relevant items to take to endpoint assessment?
Is that for early years educator, I assume? Yeah, so obviously, okay. So yeah, the guidance is that yes, they have to have the selective evidence for the endpoint assessment. So I'm sure you've seen our specification and the additional resources. If you haven't seen the additional resources, the guidance is clear on what they need to take, and also there is a portfolio log that you can request from your BDM. So the portfolio log is clear on what evidence they need to take it forward and what types of evidence they need to take it forward. For example, the reflective accounts are not allowed in early years educator, so we need to make sure that there are other types of evidences in there, selective evidences that meet the outcomes.
Thank you. Will there be any support webinars for the early years level 3 new standards coming up?
If there is a demand, yes, we can do for level 2 and level 3 early years educator and early years practitioner. That's not an issue. We can definitely look into that. So that's a good question. Yeah, it would be good to know if there are others on this line as well who would want specifically for early years. So we can do children and young people, family practitioner, early years practitioner, and early years educator.
Brilliant, thank you. And somebody's saying for EPA, they've been doing professional discussions and covered the knowledge and the skills for the lead adult care worker. So that's good because that's preparing the learners for the professional discussion. So yeah, so somebody's saying it would be great to have an early years webinar. So again, that's something we could look into.
Definitely.
Okay, I'm sorry, they just give you the most tiny question box. It's really not great to be scrolling through. Oh, sorry, that's the same question I've just done. Yeah, now this is quite popular. So somebody's saying we're using Zoom a lot more and are finding in childcare that they are researching around the topic. Yeah, so that's a good idea, setting research projects, isn't it? And using Zoom wherever possible. I think we've become a world of Microsoft Teams and Zoom, haven't we? And Raman and I actually sit opposite each other at a desk in our office, and we've never seen so much of each other on Microsoft Teams in the last few weeks, have we, Raman?
That's true.
It's a strange way of doing things. Okay, so
but again, it's a good way of introducing technology to the learners as well and how they can use it. And not that they don't know already, but there might be some learners who don't, and it's a good way of introducing technology to them as well and creating small groups and small classrooms and making sure that, again, you can create separate groups in there as well within Zoom, and then they can have their own conversation and come back and share with others. So that works as well.
Yeah, and I think that there seems to be an appetite on here, Raman, for a dedicated early years webinar, looking at the role of the assessor and, you know, probably going into that a little bit more depth. Yeah, so brilliant. So somebody's saying that they're collecting more witness testimonies. So again, that's good. You know, if you're able to sort of get that evidence, that would be, yeah, it's all acceptable evidence, you know, and what we're having to look at now with Ofqual is how we can adapt the qualifications and adapt the way we do things. Still maintaining a high standard, but making sure that no learners are disadvantaged, because what we've got to remember in all of this, we've got these learners who are desperate to finish learning programs, to get qualifications that potentially are licensed to practice, and really just get on with their lives. And it's really, you know, we're working hard with Ofqual to make sure that we are putting discretions in place that will still maintain the integrity, but allow the learners to actually progress and not just come to a screaming halt. So I think it's great that you are able to adapt what you're doing to support the learners. And it must be a very difficult time, you know, to actually be an assessor at this time and try and change the way that we do things for the good of the learner. So I think that's it really. I think, you know, people are saying they're using Zoom a lot more, they're setting research projects, they're doing Q&As, whether that's over the phone or on Zoom or whatever technology helps and supports is the best way forward, that we can really try and not have any breaks in, unnecessary breaks in learning, I guess. Okay, I'm just scrolling. Okay, yeah, so somebody else is saying that they've been hosting professional discussions between students and mentors in practice to allow students to still feel that their learning is continuing during the outbreak. And I think that's really important, isn't it? That the learner feels that they've not been abandoned, that we're all here and we're all trying our best. And like you say, trying to look at posting them to free resources or anything that can make that learning continue is really, really important. And it's good that you're all trying to do that. So there's another.
That's certainly the message from Ofqual as well, that even if, you know, like for BTECs, for example, and GCSE and A levels, even if there's no assessments, the learning must continue because those learners are moving on to progress to something. So it's good that in the work-based learning anyway, it always continues because we don't stop for any assessments or anything. So it's ongoing.
Yeah, and I think, you know, and somebody else is saying, yeah, they're offering Skype sessions and they've been well received with the learners. And I think if anything, it's probably going to change the way that we actually do things. Because I can remember as an assessor, you know, your day was just busy, 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 you know, in your car, into the learner, back out in your car. It may actually change the way that we, that, you know, assessors actually work. And actually, you know, if you can do it via this way, it's, you know, the toll that it takes on you as well, you know, it could just completely change your days. Yeah, and you know, somebody else is saying here that their learners have taken to the remote delivery really, really well, using webinars, phone calls. Yeah, so lots of Skype, lots of remote. We'll devise an FAQ to go with this to make sure that we have answered these questions, particularly around the functional skills. Okay, so I'm just scrolling through. I think that's about it for the questions. Yeah, and somebody said, I think the most important thing is that learners feel supported, and I absolutely agree. But also from our point of view, we want to make sure that you as assessors, tutors, trainers, that you feel supported as well. So please, you know, in the PowerPoint, you'll have Raman and I's email addresses. If there's anything that, any support you need, anything we can try and do during this time, please drop us an email and we will do our best to support or pass you on to the relevant people who can support you. Okay, so I think that's about it. So thank you so much to everybody who has taken the time out of their day to attend this. As I say, it's been recorded, so if you want to listen to it again, it will be available on the website, or point any of your colleagues towards that. That would be good too. Okay, so thank you very much. hope all of you are well and do take care. And hopefully we will later in the year be able to have face-to-face forums again, and it would be good to see you all there. Okay.
Thank you very much, and I will definitely make sure I will look into the early years specific webinar, and I'll try and put that out as soon as possible.
Brilliant.
And keep
Thank
safe.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you all and take care.